Hey guys, Troy Redstone here, and I was watching recently, and my friend Courtney was speaking about low-cost providers and what it looks like to save money on your 401k, and it got me thinking about some different things. One of my thoughts had to do with this idea of low cost versus best value. So when I heard about that, I thought of a little souvenir and some of you may have noticed this before. Um, I periodically put it on the shelf behind me just to see if people will notice. But this right here is a souvenir from 2020, from our COVID days. So it's still hard to believe that, right? It's like we lived through a science fiction movie or something. But there was actually a run on toilet paper. It's weird. I don't know why anybody would need that much toilet paper, or why, if they needed that much toilet paper, why they wouldn't head to the doctor and not Walmart. We needed some toilet paper, not a lot, not enough to open a toilet paper store, but we needed some toilet paper. And so I went to Walmart one day, and the shelves were literally empty, not exaggerating. The entire shelf at Walmart, this was all that was there. And I bought it because I thought it was funny. I bought it because I thought maybe if things get really, really bad, like break glass in the event of an emergency. But look, everyone wants to save money. I get that. But there's a difference between being frugal and just being cheap. Low cost is wise. Low cost is prudent, to use ERISA terminology. But it doesn't always mean high quality. When I hear low cost, I'm kind of thinking Walmart. In fact, I'm kind of thinking the generic brand at Walmart. So anyway, you can go cheap on some things like maybe toiletries, but it has never gotten so bad in our house since 2020 that we've ever had to break into the generic toilet paper. So it stays here on the shelf as kind of a reminder of how insane things were just a couple of years ago. So anyway, low cost in your 401k, low cost versus best value. So, first of all, those are not mutually exclusive. All right. I think that's a really important thing to understand. Everyone wants to be fee conscious, and low cost is not a bad thing, but value is really important. I kind of think about like the fast food, value meal. It's called a value meal because they throw in like fries and a Coke. So it's actually more sometimes for the same cost or a similar type of a price point. So it's a savings because it's more value. Okay. So with your company 401k, there are primarily four different areas of cost. So it's going to be the investments, the advisor, record keeping fees, and then just fiduciary. So let's unpack those a bit. First of all, with investment fees, I know everybody knows this, but it bears repeating. Your expense ratios absolutely don't want to be out of control, but the returns are net of fees. So to just choose like the one fund that's, like more expensive, but maybe has a higher return, and then considering that versus the one that's maybe cheap, 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 but it has a really, really low return, choosing just the cheap option, but it has less return would not be prudent. And then there's the advisory fees, the advisory cost. This is very confusing. It is not an apples to apples comparison. It's not just like advisor fee versus advisor fee, because like one advisor fee might be an asset based type of a fee where the advisor or the broker makes more just because the market did well. The other might be a like kind of a fixed fee, a low cost kind of a flat fee that doesn't increase over time as plan assets grow. So that's something to certainly take into consideration. Or maybe both advisors charge essentially the same fee. So you're going to have a plan level fee and it's essentially the same. And you're trying to compare this, but you miss, or you have to make sure you understand that if the other advisor is like charging for a managed accounts program, charging for managed accounts when that actually can be achieved for no cost at all, but charging for a managed accounts program or charging additional revenue to cross sell, like insurance or something like that. I actually heard about an advisor the other day who was charging extra for employees to get advice. Like they would educate people for whatever their flat fee or advisory fee is, but to get advice was actually an extra cost. Okay, so you've got to compare the all-in price. So when we talk about low cost versus best value, you have to make sure you understand the all-in cost versus best value. And then there's the record keeping fees. I'm going to share with you a little dirty secret in our industry. There is this thing called proprietary investments, where it's this idea that, like, if you use our funds, the record keeping will be free. But nobody works for free. So I've actually heard record keepers say we don't charge for the record keeping because they're using our funds or they're using our target dates. What that should tell you is that they're making an awful lot of money on their investments because they're not in the nonprofit business. So is it the best value? Uh, it can be until their funds begin to underperform. It's a great low cost solution until it isn't. And that's why we always try to recommend a record keeping only solution where you literally are paying like a per head fee, a per participant fee, sometimes a flat fee, where you have the ability as a plan fiduciary, as an employer sponsoring a plan, you have the ability to use whatever investments you want to and know that it's not going to impact your record keeping cost because you have to be free to make the best choice for your employees. And then finally, because you're a fiduciary, right? Finally, let's talk about fiduciary costs. Fiduciary liability is real. So there's a cost to outsourcing some fiduciary liability, but there's an even greater cost to not outsourcing it. So in ERISA, that's the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. So it's kind of the governing body of law over retirement plans. So in ERISA, we're told that if you sponsor a 401k for employees, you're a plan fiduciary. You can never not be a fiduciary if you sponsor a plan. No ifs, ands, and buts. Okay. Here's the thing, right there in ERISA, when it's describing what it means for you to be a plan fiduciary, it tells you that you must discharge your fiduciary duties. So, like, your first job as a plan fiduciary is to discharge your fiduciary duties in the best interest of plan participants for the exclusive purpose of providing benefits as a prudent person would. It's kind of called the prudent man rule. But you're actually told, if you're a plan fiduciary, that job number one is to discharge that fiduciary duties. So you must discharge your fiduciary duties. You shouldn't operate the plan without a named fiduciary, someone named other than you, without an administrative fiduciary, someone signing the Form 5500 other than you, someone taking legal responsibility for the administration, without an investment fiduciary, and without a co-fiduciary. You must not operate the plan without those things in place. So, um, what's the cost of not adding these things? Liability and risk for the company and non-compliance. What's the cost of adding them? Believe it or not, it may not be much more at all if it's done correctly. So, cost versus value. Here's the point. Here's the point of why we're talking today. A lot of employers continue to say that they buy on cost. That's all they look at. And my fear is that we've missed the point that it's cost and value, that those are not mutually exclusive. My other fear is that people are not considering the all in cost. So, on the one hand, it's good that you consider cost, okay, because a lot of times the cost, the fees are paid out of plan assets. And so that's the participant's money. It's not the employer's money. They better be aware of cost because they're spending someone else's money when they're paying those fees. But you have to understand, ultimately, it is not an either or proposition. The employer has to think about value, not just cost. So it's not low cost versus best value, it's low cost and best value. All right.